Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and we are going to do a May Currently Inked. This is my favorite video to film every month. If I could write with pens enough to do a weekly Currently Inked, I would. And I spend an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out how to turn this into a weekly Currently Inked without being redundant and monotonous. So thank you for joining me in this moment of joy. I have some pens that are right off to the side here. I also wanted to share, someone had commented asking this question, so I figured I'd go ahead and include it. I found my missing pen. So I had this pen inked up in March. And when I went to do my kind of towards the end of the month review, I think it was towards the end of the month, I was noting that I did not know where this pen was. I could somewhat recall the last time I used it. I knew that I had come back from Brooklyn with it because I had used it post Brooklyn, and I did in fact find it. It was wrapped up in a blanket that was on my bed. So the Monday that I got back from Brooklyn, I actually did a half day at work, and I came home and went right to bed and had brought my pens thinking that I was going to be productive while lying in bed. And it got wrapped up in the fuzzy furry blanket that I have on top of that. So I have found it. It is here. I did not lose it. Here it is. So there's that. I also did my nails myself. I hope that they look okay, but I have been craving this nail color, so I went out and bought a bottle and decided instead of going and spending $70 on a manicure or getting my nails done, I would just do them myself. So there's that. All right. So my ink lineup, I am looking at 6 pens right off to the side, and we are going to get started and stick around towards the end because I do have some other paper that I have swatched these pens on so you can see how they look on some different papers. So the first one, and I'm just going to zoom in. Let's see how that looks. This is the new release for the Pelikan M200 series. It's a limited edition, and this is a copper and rose gold. So it has the shimmery copper barrel, and it has these like striations in there, these lines of this kind of golden honey brown that come through, and then the rose gold finishes. I got mine in a fine nib, and this model of the 200 has an ink window, which I really like. I love my Pelikan M400 beyond what words can describe, but and I also like my M600, but the M600 specifically, the barrel is not see-through, so I have no clue how much ink is in it. The M400, I can pretty much tell. It's translucent, but this, love this. All right. So I received this pen last month, and I have not really gotten an opportunity to use it a whole lot because I was focused on using up the pens and inks combination that I had for April. So this is technically a carryover, but really not, not really. So this is the Pelikan M200, copper and rose gold with a fine nib. I did see Leanne Likes has a recent video on fountain pen burnout, and she received this pen, and the nib is inconsistent based on the direction that she's writing which makes me sad for her. And I hope that she's able to get a resolution and maybe get it custom ground, which is what she's hoping to do. Mine works well, so I'm very grateful for that. So I inked this up with Colorverse Brunch Date. I wanted to be sure that I used an ink in this pen that I have had a positive experience with, and which is why I selected this particular ink. And I am not disappointed whatsoever. And I didn't feel it necessarily match the pen, but as I'm writing with it, I do think it matches the pen. So there's that. All right, the next pen and ink combination, speaking of my beloved Pelikan M400, I think in all the time that I've had this pen, there's been 1 month that I haven't used it, and I was missing it all month. So here it is again. This is one of those pens that I would not trade for anything at this point. I know things change, but this is one this was my first Grail pen, and my husband went to great lengths to track it down for me, and I'm just so appreciative of that. So, yeah. All right, so here is Pelikan M400. And this is the white tortoiseshell. I'll be honest, I don't know how to spell tortoiseshell fluently, accurately, so I don't even try. And this is inked up with Iroshizuku Inaho. I recently did a video on some inks that were kind of similar to Inaho, perhaps dupes, since that is an ink that you are unable to purchase at this point. Very hard to come by, and then I had a viewer that I'm doing an ink swap with to give her a sample of Inaho, as she has some inks that are comparative to it, and she'd like to see how similar they are herself with her own pens and her own eyes. So it inspired me to ink it up this month, and I do think it's a nice match for this Pelikan M400 in the white tortoiseshell. Yeah, I think that's a nice match right there. Oops, don't know why I did that. All right, and the next pen is the Pilot Firmo. This is a beloved pen on this channel. I tend to get a lot of comments about this pen, and the video that I did on this pen, people are still watching and commenting and asking questions. Yes, I do still love this pen. It is a little heavier back weighted because of the opening mechanism than, say, a Pilot Vanishing Point. Or most other pens in my collection. I like the back weight. I am perfectly fine with it. And this has a fine nib, and I believe it's an 18 karat nib, if I recall correctly. Make sure that's nice and focused. And in case the color is not coming across well, this is a very dark forest green. And like I said, a fine nib. I love the difference here between the Pelikan Extra Fine and the Pilot Fine. It's such a difference, and I do love it. And this is inked up with Diamine Olive Swirl. I love this ink. It was a Christmas gift from my husband. It is a beautiful beautiful shade of olive green, and it has a shimmer. That's the first time I'm using shimmer in the Firmo, and so far they're handling it beautifully. So well done, Firmo. All right, and the next pen that I am using this month is the Pilot E95S in burgundy. It has this champagne gold with the classic gold clip and this beautiful burgundy color. This is a pocket pen, so it is small. And for me, I need to write with it capped, posted, um, for it to be the right length. But goodness, it's such a classy, classy, classy pen. I really like this. All right, and so this is inked up with Diamine Nobel. This is an extra fine gold nib. I have found that I really like using a red ink in this pen, obviously because the body is this beautiful burgundy color. And I just, for whatever reason, really navigated towards this pop of color. So this is the let me fix that, E95S. Next pen is a custom pen, a hand-turn pen by Zodiac Pen Company. And this is in the Virgo model, which is a cigar shape. It is almost perfectly matched up. I have tried to put the cap on to get it more matched up, but this is as close as I can get it, and I'm still pretty impressed. Has these beautiful swirls with purple and pink, and this is the red abalone. I did get an email from Atlas Stationers of a new release pen that's on pre-order using the red abalone blank, and it looks so similar to this. So I was very pleased that I can say I have that. Now, who is she with this pop of color? It's an extra fine nib, and this color is an Oroshizuku ink in Ajisai. Absolutely beautiful. Certainly not an exact match to this pen, but I really liked that, maybe pulled out a little bit of that purple, a little bit of this right here. But it's just such a lovely, lovely color, and I have been remiss in not using it sooner. All right, and the next one, so in 2024, I've been making sure to use a black or kind of black adjacent ink each month. And so this month I pulled out my Pilot Vanishing Point. This, I believe, was called the Stormtrooper by Brian from Goulet many, many years ago, and I've continued to call it Stormtrooper, although I just think it's a white and black vanishing point. When I say many years ago, I got this pen maybe in 2016, 2017. You can see how much it's been used, how well loved it is. And I also had it custom ground at the Commonwealth Pen Show in 2022. So this, like I said, the Pilot Vanishing point with an extra fine nib. And I think when I got it custom ground, it was made a little bit finer because it's been used so much. I think the fine had kind of moved to, or sorry, the extra fine had moved to a fine, so I just had it ground back down to an extra fine. And this is inked up with Iroshizuku. Oops. Yeah. Kirisami. In my mind, I almost wrote Konpeki, and I knew that in my mind that wasn't right. So that's why I said whoops. Okay. And last but certainly not least, this is my big carryover. So this is the pen that I purchased in Brooklyn on March 16th. I inked it up on March 17th with Yoseka Ceramics Tang Mise Blue, and that is how much ink is still in there. So I have been using it because it was a March pen and ink combination. It wasn't my one of my primary pens in April, which is why I think there's still as much ink as there is in there, but I love, 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 love this. And I have started to research potentially getting another nib or two for the Opus 88. They're not that expensive. I think that's under $20, so can't hurt. And I was thinking maybe of getting a fine and a medium. I tried the medium at Yoseka, and it was one of their demonstrator pens, and their demonstrator pens are very well loved. So it wrote quite wet. So I would be interested to see what a brand new medium writes like. And this is Yoseka Ceramics. I just did a writing session with this, so that's probably why it's skipping just a little bit. It's been actually writing quite wet. So once I followed the recommendation to just leave the plunger open, it's been writing beautifully. Dang me, say blue. Okay. So there is that pen and ink combination. Now let's take a little exploration of how these pens and inks look on some other papers. So this is a Galen Leather Co. Everyday Notebook with Tomoe River paper. This is a Hobonichi Hone, the 2024 with the new Tomoe River paper. Actually, let me go ahead and see if I can get it a little side by side. Just going to take moving some things around for a moment. There we go. All right, so there's the side by side. They do look very similar, pretty close to exactly the same. The Yoseka Ceramics looks a little bit more saturated, but that could just be because I had finished a writing session here. So there's that. Now the next paper that I have, let me go ahead and move this over here. Apologies for all the movement, but this is a Rhodia, and it's a dot grid. The last couple of times that I've done the comparison, I have used a grid, which to my eyes felt really busy. So now I have a dot grid, And this is also a very, very, very bright white, which makes this, which typically I would call this a white, this looks cream. But here are the inks on the Rhodia paper. Again, to me, they look very similar, very similar. I think on the Rhodia paper, you're able to see the pen strokes a little bit more. And on this Tomoe River paper, the ink it seems to me that the ink is not spreading as much, or sorry, is spreading a little bit more on the paper versus this. It kind of dries down just as you put it on. And then this is a Galen Leather Co. Cosmo Air Light paper. And here's the comparison there. Now, what I find with the Cosmo Air Light is when you touch the paper, your fingerprint stays there. And when you go to write on that spot, the ink does not saturate down where your finger oils were. In fact, just me placing that finger there for a moment, I can see on the paper that there's a fingerprint there. The other thing I find with the Cosmo Air Light paper is when you put the ink down, it really spreads out across the top of the paper and then dries down. So you lose a lot of those very distinctive pen strokes, and it becomes a little bit more of a blended swatch. The good thing with that is that it shows the shading properties of the ink, perhaps a little bit more than it does on Tomoe River, which is fascinating. I really like that. I think if I can get myself used to blotting paper and using tools to put under my hand when I write so that I'm not getting the fingerprints in there, I think I'm going to learn to enjoy the Cosmo Air Light paper a lot more than I currently do. So those are my paper comparisons, and these are my pens and my inks for May of 2024. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.